here we are again, once again, I should say, broken motorcycle, but easily spotted. I found the problem pretty quickly. So even though the bike let me down again, it'll be easy to show you what's going on. So here's the first item is safety tip. If you smell gas, don't ride your motorcycle. Figure out where the gas is coming from. Maybe it's as simple as you didn't completely secure the fuel filler cap, but maybe it's a little more complicated in that you broke something or something magically broke on the motorcycle, which is what happened to me. So the broken thing is underneath this side panel, so that's where we're going to start. We're going to get through the side panel and figure out what's going on. All right, this is actually one of the easiest things to do on your motorcycle. If you have an 05 to 07 R1200 GS anyways, you got two twist locks that come right out, and then you've got another twist lock under here, but it's broken. I guarantee you it's broken because they always break. It's a part. I'm sorry, it's a crappy part. I shouldn't say tape. And it breaks pretty quick. And then under here, there's a nipple that goes through a little rubber bushing. So that pops right out. And there you can see the nipple right there. You always want to make sure that you, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but you want to make sure that you lubricate these nipples before you put it back in the bushing. That way next time it comes out just as easy as it did right now.
What we want to do is bring the fuel level below the broken off fitting.
Right.
I have a length of hose, which is several lengths of hose cobbled together, but in this case it serves its purpose. This way we can tell when we get this fitting all the way in the tank, it should bring us below that level.
Okay, that's good thinking.
That side's in.
All right.
Then you take air, compressed air, blow it perpendicular across the open hose, and make sure you have a container ready to catch it. You should probably be wearing eye protection at this point. And if you're in the state of California, don't even bother.
Holy crap, that worked. That was amazing. I mean, not that I doubted you.
Or if you like the taste of gas, you can suck on the hose, but I don't recommend it.
So how is that going to just continue flowing until we're good?
Yep. Once the level goes down below where the hose is in the tank, it'll shut off.
What is that, the Venturi effect?
Yep.
All right, there you go. Some science for you.
Oddly enough, that is what this is. This flange is what BMW calls a sucking pump.
Of course it is, a sucking pump.
Has the same thing. It blows gasoline over an open hose and sucks gas from this side of the tank to that side of the tank.
While the tank is draining, I'm going to show you what I'm putting on the bike. And if I can open the Ziploc bag, that is. These are well known to be childproof. So when you have a fuel system that you need to be able to take apart, like when you have to take the tank off, every time I have to take the tank off the bike to get to any of the electronics or the ABS pump or any of the other stuff that seems to always go wrong with this bike, you have to disconnect the fuel lines so that you can pull the tank off. So in the fitting, the housing on there is a quick disconnect. So it's got two pieces, the female part, which is also a male part, which is confusing, but that's this. And it screws into the plate. And then the male part, I'm just going to tear that off. The male part, which connects to your fuel line. So these two pieces go together with a little press of a button, and they click together, and then fuel will flow through. You can't, it's hard to see. Maybe I'll try and get a real up close picture of it, but there's a little plunger that pushes out when you push the top of the fitting in, and then to disconnect it, you just push the little button and it pops right out. Now, this is not my favorite design because it's got an exposed O-ring. You see that little black thing there? That's a rubber O-ring. And if you don't get the angle correct when you put the two fittings together, then you can nick that O-ring and gas will then leak past, making a mess, possibly starting a fire. You got to be really careful with gas. But this is the best compromise design. BMW puts plastic quick disconnects on these motorcycles. And several years ago, they did a recall to replace the housing, the flange itself, that this fits into, because they were failing. They were all made out of plastic, and the female part was failing because of just, you know, time and ethanol in the gas and et cetera, reasons. So they replaced all the fuel flanges, but they kept the crappy plastic quick disconnects, which I can understand. I mean, they're selling to a price point, which is why they put those things on there in the first place. This kit, which comes with 2 sets of these and some other things, there's a fuel line clamp and a tube of goo that you have to use to seal the threads. It's called Gasoila Soft Set with PTFE, Premium Thread Sealant. So you put this around the threads and it seals any gaps in the system, in the little housing that it fits in, so that gas doesn't leak out around the threads, basically. So this little kit, for 2 of these for my bike, I got from Beamer Boneyard, which is a good place to get stuff. They used to be really, really great for getting used BMW parts. They don't really do as well now for used parts as they used to, but they sell a lot of really cool stuff like this little kit that cost about $83 plus shipping, et cetera, and I got some extra fuel line clamps and some extra little rubber O-rings, and I'll just tuck those into my little parts kit that sits under the seat on my bike, so that I always have those. So if I do have a problem somewhere out on the road and I need a hose clamp, or I need a little tiny O-ring like that, then I'll have one. So hopefully the bike has drained out enough gas. George told me to watch it, and I haven't been doing that, so bad me. But the container was 6 gallons and my tank's only 5, so hopefully there's no mess. We're safe. All right, so we're gonna put some pliers on this thing, pull it off. George says we gotta be real careful and pull it off straight. We don't want to pry it down, so be prepared for gas to shoot everywhere. Oh no, that broke right off. Oh, that's fantastic. Look at that, George, it broke right off. Just needed the application of pliers. And it looks like we got the gas down at least below that. So now we got to figure out how to get the rest of that housing out.
Just keep going.
Just keep pulling at it till all the pieces come out. No, there's the spring. Goodbye.
I don't know if we're down below. I don't know if we got quite enough gas out.
Well, so what's this thing going to do?
In theory, that's going to screw it up.
Okay. In theory. Let me get the new one ready. Oh.
This is what the broken off one looked like.
Right. That was a nice sound. Oh, so get the, oh, look at that, it spun right out.
Since we are clearly did not remove enough fuel, you might want to stand to the side, Wes. I feel like little Timmy.
With your finger in the dike?
That's right. Okay.
So the new fitting has to go in dry.
So that means we need to pull more fuel out. So.
All right, so we can do that. All right, we had to take some more gas out of the tank. So I'm gonna undo this again and see if it's enough to stop the gas coming out this fitting. And looks like we made it. So let me show you these two parts. Here's the plastic one. This is stock. Now this is one that's not broken. The one on my bike was broken. And this is the metal one. They're the same size. They're even made by the same company. You can see on the little push button, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Let me get in close. I don't know if it'll focus that close. You can see that they're made by the same company, CPC, but these ones cost about 40 bucks a piece, and I'm guessing these ones cost about 12 cents. So I'm gonna get in here, clean this out, make sure it's nice and dry, put the goo on the threads, and then get that in there. Then I'll have to replace the fitting on this end. That's the 90-degree part, and then we're gonna do the other side. So if I just rub a rag around in here a few times, kind of push it in so it gets into the threads, that's probably good, huh?
Let it sit for a bit.
All right, we'll let that sit in there. Sorry. So because I don't understand how my camera works, you missed the excitement of the goo shooting out all over the place, the gross wet goo. So you got to put this thread sealant on these fittings and let it sit for about half an hour to tack up before you install them. So while these are setting up, I'm going to show you how the other side of the bike works. Before I do that though, I'm going to show you a special tool that you may need to use if you have to disassemble the whole thing instead of just take out the fittings like I did. This is a special tool that comes from BMW, and its only purpose, it's nice, it's really well made. It's aluminum, so it's relatively light. The part number is, let's see, 16120/021 N10/07, made in Germany. It's a good hefty looking part, and it does one thing, and that is enable you to remove the entire fuel flange housing, which on one side has the fuel pump and all that stuff in it, and on the other side is just a return to send gas from one side of the tank to the other side of the tank to make sure you use the whole tank of gas every time you fill up. So here's the housing, here's the tool, and it fits, these notches fit on these little things that pop out. And then you would use a wrench, a socket to turn the whole thing, and then the whole fitting would come out. Now another thing is you can see that this has been replaced before, because here's these special one-use clamp fittings that BMW uses, and this is obviously an aftermarket one. So when they replaced this unit under warranty, they put a new plastic fitting on, which is the one that broke. Okay, so I pulled the side panel off the other side, and this is the main housing. And as you can see, here, let me get some extra light in there, whoops. This has already got a metal fitting in it. So I must have replaced that once upon a time, probably when I replaced the fuel pump controller, which is this little computer thing here. It doesn't look like a computer, but it is. So this is also the updated flange that has the metal collar around it. And that was the whole point of the recall, was to put those little metal collared ones on there. So lucky me, I don't have to do all this, but unlucky me in that I bought two of them. And so now I have an extra one, which is great because I'll just throw it in my little parts kit. And I'm sure sooner or later, somewhere out on the road, I'll come across somebody that needs one of those things put on their bike, and I'll have one. So real quick, I'm gonna show you how easy this is to put back on. There's the nipple that you have to lubricate. There's the bottom fitting that comes around from the front of the bike here that always seems to stop working very well. I guess the plastic just kind of gets worn out. And then these are the two little quick zip twist fittings. So it's real easy. You put the nipple in the bushing first and push it till it seats all the way. You might feel a little pop. You line up the top, turn it clockwise to secure it, then line up the bottom. It's a little harder because you can't see it anymore. Usually you have to kind of push back towards the back of the bike and then you'll feel it start to grip. And then this one, you don't even need to bother with because it's going to come loose anyways. But if it worked, then you would just twist it until it grabbed, and then it's like a 90-degree thing, but it won't hold for very long. So I hardly ever connect it. All right, so I'm going to replace the other fitting, the other end of it while that thing finishes tacking up. And then I'm not going to connect it until I get home tomorrow, or tonight. I'll connect it tomorrow because it says to leave it for 24 hours. I'm not going to reuse that clamp, so I don't care if I damage it. But I'm going to use another round one to go on there. So these have little barbs. I don't know if you can see that, if it'll focus close enough, but these have little barbs on them, so they can be a little tough to get out of the hose sometimes. They're real easy to get in though. So we're going to see how hard this one is to get out. It helps if you turn it a little and pull at the same time. And once again, I don't care if I break it because I'm replacing it. There it goes. Oh, and hey, it had a little more gas in it. So we got a little more gas on the place. Now here's the trick to doing this. You put the clamp on the hose first, then you put the fitting on. Get that on there. And then you just tighten this up until it's nice and snug. It doesn't have to be murder tight, but you want it to be tight enough that it's not going to back out. The barbs help keep the fitting in the hose, but this secures it because you don't want gas leaking out around the barbs.
And you'll want to go back and check that in a month or two because it will compress the rubber.
Yeah. So that looks nice and snug. So the instructions are to thread it in hand tight and then use a wrench to turn it 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn. So we're going to use a crescent wrench to do that because of this you can't get a socket over it. So we're going to go 1/2 a turn. You know what? We're just going to go that far because that's where the resistance kicks in. Or what's that British saying, George? Lays in, yeah, the wrench lays in hand. So it doesn't really want to go tighter, and I'm not going to force it because we're putting metal threads into a plastic housing. So don't force it. And then, of course, go back in, clean up your mess, make it easy for the next guy to work on it. Also make sure you get all this gooey stuff off of the parts that have to move. So the way this works is you push the button and press the fitting in. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to stress that. I'm just going to leave this loose. Actually, I'm going to connect these two things back up and leave the rest loose. And those are vent hoses. I put it back in the bag. Edwina backing bowl. Are you gonna lay some wisdom on us?
You want to make sure that this fitting is not tight, has to be released. Sometimes it will pop back like that. You don't want to be in that position. You want to be there.
Gotcha, I see.
Because if you're in that position, it will chip this O-ring as you squeeze it in, because you can push this back.
So is that what nicks the O-ring?
That's usually what nicks the O-ring.
Gotcha.
So
Sage advice. Thank you very much, George.
push on it.
And it does. It goes right in. So you got to kind of make sure you prime it. Awesome. The only thing left to do is wait for this to set up overnight and cure. Make sure you clean your tools. Always clean your tools. Always clean your workspace. Now there's no torque wrench on this. And that's on purpose because, once again, you're putting a metal fitting into plastic threads. So you don't want to overstress them. You just go, the instructions say hand tight plus a half a turn. I got hand tight plus about a quarter turn, and it really felt snug, so I stopped right there. I'll hook it up tomorrow. I'm positive it's going to work, so I'm not worried about it. And I'll fill it up with gas tomorrow, and I'll be all done with that. So subscribe, like, share, ding, all that stuff. And don't forget to check out our other digital presences. This is Nick Duber Max, the tech channel for BMW motorcycles. We've also got Motorcycle Test Kitchen, which you will see. I'm actually getting ready today to make another test film. So there'll be another one coming out soon on a tire plugging device. There's also 2 podcasts, Chasing the Horizon and 200 Miles Before Breakfast. And I hope you check all of those out and subscribe to what you like. Leave reviews, leave comments, help everybody out. And we'll see you out there somewhere on the road. Or off it, of course. Not on my GS, but maybe on yours. Ride safe.